Michael Penix Jr. is going into the 2025 NFL season as the unquestioned starter for the first time for the Atlanta Falcons. He really only played in 3 games in his rookie season. We're going to be going through his 2024 film, some of those 3 games, looking at his strengths and weaknesses and what we might be able to predict for the Atlanta Falcons at that quarterback position moving into the 2025 season. Looking at his stats, he had pretty decent numbers: 61 for 105, 775 yards, 3 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, and an 87.9 PFF grade. Really only played in those 3 starts coming at the end of the season. And there's a lot to like with some of the things that we saw in Penix's profile coming out of college and then additionally in his rookie season as well. He plays with really good velocity and arm strength. He has a strong base, very strong arm. You can see the ball just fly off of his hand, and that's just a huge trait to have as a quarterback. It just gives you a little bit of a bigger margin for error, fitting the ball into tight windows, pushing the ball downfield. You can see that he can pretty much make every throw at the NFL level, and that is a big time check mark in his profile. He has a very aggressive nature to him as well. He's willing to push the ball down the field, willing to put it into tight windows and trust his wide receivers. His big time throw percentage for quarterbacks with over 100 dropbacks last season, he was number 1 in the NFL with 9.0 as a big time throw percentage. His average depth of target was 10.6. That's second in the NFL as well. So he definitely pushed the ball down the field early and often in his NFL career, make really good, accurate throws deep down the field. And we can see that kind of all over his first couple of games. That's a great trait to have. I think typically his accuracy was pretty good as well when everything was working together, when his communication was on point with his wide receivers. You could tell that him and his wide receivers maybe weren't always on the same page. Kirk Cousins took pretty much all of these starting snaps at training camp during the season, so he was still developing a lot of chemistry with his wide receivers, learning where they like to run their routes, where to place the football, and his wide receivers really weren't helping him out much at all either. They had the highest drop percentage for him at 11.6, which was the most in the NFL. So a lot of his completion percentage was a bit lower. You definitely want to see that rise. His adjusted completion percentage was 70.4, which is 43rd in the NFL. That accounts for drops and things as well, though. So even still, even with everything going on, that is something that you want to see improve. But when everything is working smoothly, I do think his accuracy can be pretty good. His decision-making is also a big strength of his game. He did have 3 interceptions in 3 games, but I'll roll the interceptions here. Pretty much none of them are his fault. 2 of the interceptions, the wide receiver has it in their hands and then it gets tipped up and intercepted. So really you can't blame either one of those on him. The other interception, there's 2 guys running directly into the same space. Very clearly some kind of miscommunication on what the play was supposed to be. Penix shouldn't have thrown it. That one, maybe a little bit more on him, but you can see that a lot of these things, a lot of the negative stats that might come up aren't entirely on him. I think continuing to develop that chemistry, continuing to work within this offensive system, he is going to continue to get better in that regard. He also goes through his progressions incredibly well. For a very young quarterback, you can see him regularly getting off his first read, finding his check down, going to his backside dig and finding that on the other side of the field. He goes through full field progression. He's willing to, go through his progressions, find his check down, be able to get off his first read and go to the open guy based on what the defense is showing him. That is a huge, huge trait for him, and I think that is going to really help him. He did come out as a little bit of an older player, so you would expect that to be a little bit better, but that is big time to see that in the NFL. Even within just 3 starts, that is definitely big to see. He throws with really good anticipation and timing. He's willing to trust that his wide receivers will end up in the right spot. This was probably the traits that I was most excited to see, because I think anticipation and being able to trust your guys to be in the right spots is one of the most important things when it comes to playing quarterback and playing on time. Penix was great in that regard. He would throw the ball before the break. He would be willing to believe that his guys were going to get to the spot. I think sometimes that caused him to be inaccurate or not necessarily put the ball where it needed to be. But the willingness to anticipate when routes are coming open, throw it before they are open, that is a huge trait. And I think that he is going to really benefit from being able to do that regularly in the NFL. Just creates so much more separation for his wide receivers. He also has good pocket movement. He's willing to step up in the pocket, take a hit. He'll stand in there. I think that, we'll continue to see more of how his pocket management develops throughout his career because he just didn't have a ton of opportunities to show it. There are a few things that I'll talk about later in the video that I think he needs to clean up in the pocket, but generally speaking, the willingness to hit the back of his drop, take a hitch forward, move up into the pocket, and find that open in space. I think he's good at kind of managing the pocket in that regard. And then a little bit of some more intangible things. He made some really big plays in big moments, 3rd and 4th downs, late in the halves, towards the end of games. He was fighting with the Commanders coming back. He had some big time 4th down conversions. And those are big plays to see. You want to see him shine in the biggest moments. And, they were in a playoff push when Penix got the nod. And he was able to keep them competitive. Yes, they didn't win a lot of the games that he was playing in, but I think that just shows that he is able to make big-time plays and big-time moments, and that's something that you love to see from a young quarterback. And I think Penix absolutely showed he has the ability to do so, kind of down the clutch in these big-time moments in his rookie season in just 3 games. Now looking at some of the maybe downsides of Penix's game, he really only has 3 starts, so that makes his projection into 2025 a bit more of a question mark. He didn't play very good defenses. The Giants, the Commanders, and then the Panthers, those are not high caliber defenses that he was playing. So yes, he has some good numbers. There were some things to like absolutely in his profile, but how is he going to fare when he plays, some of the elite defenses in the NFL? That's still very much a question mark. He also isn't an amazing athlete. He can do enough off script. There are moments and flashes where he's, the play breaks down, he's scrambling outside, keeping his eyes downfield and making plays. He's just not a really special athlete. I think a lot of the injuries he dealt with in college maybe prevent some of that athleticism from really coming out. I think he's willing to do it. He's just not a special player out in space, making things happen. So, that's something that I think he's going to win predominantly from the pocket, pushing the ball downfield. I think that's really what his bread and butter is. Not sure he's going to be this crazy off-script, Patrick Mahomes playmaker type of quarterback. He's going to win from inside the pocket. And then one thing he needs to do far better inside the pocket is protect the football. He had a couple fumbles. I think it's just because he holds the ball way too far from his body. He needs to protect the ball better, understand where pressure is coming from, and, protect the football. I think he likes to, have that ball out so he can just ready it up and rip it into a tight window, which is totally understandable. But when you're going off script, when the pressure's coming in, you got to get that second hand on the football and protect it. I think he just needs to clean that up a bit moving into this 2025 season. The biggest thing that I think that he needs to improve is, generally speaking, he needs to take the easy stuff a little bit more often, not put his team in long-distance situations. And I think a big-time part of that is he needs to deliver with touch more often. He's always just lasering the ball in there because he has this big arm and because he is often throwing into these tight windows. He is pretty often just ripping the football into there. And I do think that contributed to a couple of his interceptions. The wide receivers weren't quite ready for the heat. He's got the left-handed spiral on it, which is just throwing off the wide receivers even a little bit more. They'll adjust to it, but these things just, he needs to play with a little bit more nuance and touch in his game, not always just ripping the football in there as fast as you can. I think that's something that he just needs to get better at. I think it makes the angles tougher for the wide receivers when he's just, ripping it into this really tight window. He needs to help his wide receivers out, throw with a little bit more touch, especially deep down the field. I think too often on the go balls, he's just throwing these lasers, which makes it pretty difficult for the wide receivers to track it and get under the football and get good positioning when, you don't have a ball to run under and you can't go up and track it as easily because it's just being ripped into that tight window. So I think Penix just needs to throw with a little bit more touch, protect the football inside the pocket a little bit better as well, and then continues to show that he can do some of the really good things that he showed in 2024 against really good defenses that he faces in 2025. Going into the 2025 season, I do think Penix is going to have a good year. I liked his connection that he had with Drake London. Bijan Robinson will keep the running game going really well. And then I like Zach Robinson, the offensive coordinator's offensive system for Penix. A lot of play action drop back game where he can, use play action and the threat of Bijan Robinson, hit the back of his drop, hitch, and then launch the ball downfield. Use his aggressive nature, his arm strength, his arm talent to go hit these deep crossers, these posts, these go balls. He'll need to continue to get better with touch, but when everything comes together with Michael Penix, it sure is pretty, and I do think that he has a very good chance to have a big-time leap in his sophomore season in 2025. Let me know your thoughts on Michael Penix and how he'll fare for the 2025 season down below. If you like this kind of content, it's going to be putting out more NFL scouting stuff like this, NFL draft material as well. So please hit that subscribe button. While you're down there, hit the like button as well. Both those things are just free and easy ways to support the channel. Thank you so much for watching. I will catch you in the next one.